Good evening, everyone. I see people joining in. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Lilly Milman, and I'm the host for this virtual edition of the Readings of the Room, sponsored by the Writers' Room of Boston. I'm an essayist based in Boston, and I'm a member of the Writers' Room, and a big advocate for it. And I'm delighted that you can join us this evening for this reading. For anyone new to us, the Writers' Room of Boston is a co-working space in downtown Boston for any and all writers who want a quiet place to work. It's open 24 hours a day and provides desks as well as companionship of other writers. There's a great community involved with it. We regularly host virtual and in-person events like this one, as well as feedback and writing groups. Some are open to the public, like this reading, and some are members only and are a little bit more intimate. We have been serving writers of the greater Boston area since 1993, and no serious writer has ever been turned away because of an inability to pay full dues. If you'd like to learn more, I really encourage you to check out our website, www.writersroomofboston.org. I'll also be dropping that link in the chat. But yeah, please check it out for our full schedule of events, as well as some more information about membership. I also wanted to just shout out this series was made possible by grants from the Mass Cultural Council and the Boston Cultural Council. And we also rely on friends and donations. If you enjoy this program, please consider making a contribution using the donate button on our website. Tonight we'll be hearing readings from two poets, starting with Gabriela Valencia, a poet and essayist based in Nebraska, followed by Tiara Dinevska-McGuire, a poet based in Chicago. I do have a bit of a personal connection with these writers. I'm excited to say Tiara was one of my freshman year roommates in college, so I'm very excited to see her read. And as we go along this evening, please feel free to use the question and answer feature in the box at the bottom of the screen where you can type your questions. We'll save some time for discussion at the end. If you can't find the Q&A button, you can feel free to drop questions in the chat as well. So yeah, without further ado, I'd love to introduce our first reader, Gabriela Valencia. Gabriela is a poet and essayist. Her writing appears in Image Journal, Four Way Review, Waxwing, the Los Angeles Review, Sand Journal, Consequence, and elsewhere. She has twice been named a finalist for the Best Spiritual Literature Award in Nonfiction in 2025 and 2024, among other recognitions. Her writing has received generous support from Tin House and the Robert Pinsky Global Fellowship. She earned her MFA in poetry from Boston University, and she currently lives in Nebraska with her husband Josh and their two herding dogs, Rainer and Zola. She's working on her first book. So, Gabriella, if you'd like to get started, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Lily. Um, I am so excited to be here tonight. I have been looking forward to this for weeks. It is personally a significant event for me. I really admire both Tiara and Lily. And it was kind of the perfect confluence to be able to do this together tonight. Um, and then on top of the personal significance, I was also thinking about the cultural and communal significance of having nights like these. Being able to share in community, in poetry, and expression, especially in a time like this, in a country like this. And so, in reflecting on that, I revisited one of my favorite poems from one of my favorite poets, Ilya Kaminsky. The poem is called A Cigarette, and it describes citizens of this occupied town kind of surrounded by rubble. But what's really significant about this poem is that they're all on this rooftop having just a beautiful time together. And one kind of thieves a cigarette from another one. And there are these pints of sunlit beer. And it's this really beautiful poem for me because it doesn't deny what's happening. It doesn't deny the rubble or the bombardments, but it also really cherishes the light that we have. And so I think about that when I think about having poetry readings and getting to share time together. Um, and then in the spirit of that poem, that kind of helped me decide what I wanted to read tonight as well. So I have two poems. The first is called Death Whistle. And I don't think you need to know much before I jump into it, but It does sort of draw a little bit from my cultural inheritance as a daughter of Mexican immigrants to the United States. Um, but mostly it's just about an afternoon that I spent with my dad. Um, and it uses the word Mexica, which is just another way of talking about the Aztec people of Mexico. Death Whistle. For the Mexica, the first world was ruled by night sky and destroyed by sky's collapse. The fourth ruled by water and destroyed by flood. Now, after a lifetime of music, has my father started to go deaf? Too proud, marooned in chit-chat without subtitles, he interjects ill-timed, asking me to dance for him several times a day now in unheeded clockwork. And I fear he may be asking me to replace, what is it, music? Or the nameless thing he feels he's beginning to lose forever, that which makes a human human, which he doesn't hear in most poetry, though reading my fallen face, he concedes the form is similar. I won't dance, he won't talk, so it's CNN, Zelensky dance champion. Airstrikes in Kyiv are resounding of the Iraq war I grew up listening to. Primed in the Cold War, my father admits explosions, while terrible, excite him. When the Ukrainians counterattack, he cries, "Now we talking." Then adds in Spanish, "The Mexica should have fought harder." As he once chimed apropos of, was it? Nothing, circling networks of Illinois lotto numbers on a whittled legal pad. And I figure, if he'd been a citizen during the War on Terror, were he enlisting aged now, would this preoccupation with Armageddon take another form separate from his fixations on Nostradamus, the divinatory wheel, and family birthdays? His own June 6th, 1960, or, he notes, 666. In perfect health, he'll die any day now, according to his own projections. So we sit silent before the TV, like the broken piano below the sunstone, lit by the infinite scroll of disaster. Then switch on a French doc on Hussein's capture. The documentarian's driver, Sami Halali, had not yet ventured a word, till one day he said to the rest in fluid French, "I love Victor Hugo. I love Albert Camus." I asked my father, what does it mean? Then inward, how does art meet doom? But the voiceover, some strange English. Comrade, like calm reed. And my father, uninterested sans understanding, has gone chanting to himself as he keeps the emptied house. Ding ding dong, down the hall of instruments, guitars, keyboard, snake-bundled extensions, and the death whistle on the card table. That skull-shaped flute, blown, entering battle, to sound like a human scream. The Mexica did not know when the world would end. And then for my second poem, uh, kind of shifting the energy a little bit. Um, I think despite all of the difficulties in the world right now, um, it's strange because I still feel tremendously grateful for these really simple things in my life. Feel really grateful for this kind of near abundance that I have. And so this poem is sort of a investigation of that gratitude and of that joy that I feel like we still somehow feel despite all of that. Um, and thank you all for being here. Whose eyes are stars. At the butterfly pavilion, the attendant asks, "How are we?" I say, "Well, thank God. Thank you for asking." Outside, snow falls with punctuated grace. Inside, wings iridesce underfoot. Once, at a luxury hotel the night before a wedding, the hostess led me to my room. On the way, multiplying amenities, gifts in tot baskets. The spa opens at 6. Thank you. Please accept this fresh fruit. Oh, thank you. My gratitude, a tattered train, stained by prolonged travel. After a while of giving her nothing but my thanks, I fumbled for its likeness. Beautiful, how beautiful. Then finally nodded, smiled, with what must have been a pleading brow. It is obvious I stowed few words for this journey. Online, I say, thank you for sharing. Thank you for thinking of us. Keeping in touch with an aunt I met just once. I click the vacant heart. It plushes red. I notice how she too loves this world. Driving by someone else's graduation, she takes and shares a video, says, "Congratulations all." Her avatar, whose eyes are stars. I could live my life through the porthole of her life. Shaky footage of the Christmas party, blurry stretch of California highway, of twisted leafless branches that ignite her glittering script over everything, saying, "Wow, I love this. Trees." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. That was beautiful. Um, I'd now like to welcome our second reader, Tiara Dinevska-McGuire. She's a Macedonian American poet and an inspiring translator from Cleveland, Ohio. She obtained her MFA from Boston University, where she was a Robert Pinsky Global Fellow and was awarded the Hurley Prize for Poetry. She was named first runner-up in Boulevard's 2023 Poetry Contest for Emerging Poets and was awarded a fellowship through Literary Cleveland for her work on the 2024 Incubator Writing Conference. Her poetry can be read in The Common, Poet Lore, Mantis, Tinderbox Poetry, Kajibi, and elsewhere. She lives in Chicago. Tiara, if you'd like to start reading, we'd love to hear it.
Hi, Lily. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. And most of all, thank you, Gabriella, for that beautiful, beautiful reading. This is a really, just as she had been, I'd been really looking forward to tonight. I've known Lily now for a decade this year. The way time moves, right? And Gabriella and I were in the same cohort at BU, and quickly found lifelong readers and poetry partners within one another. So to be able to have this reading with her is extremely special. And as Gabriella mentioned too, with the state of the country that we are in right now, I think it's very important to echo her sentiment. Just as Gabriella is, I am both daughters of immigrants and our roles in this country and how that really has populated into our work. And especially kind of talking with my ancestors and realizing they've lived this same life before, has helps me feel a little more grounded that things aren't impossible. I have I tend to write shorter poems, so I have a couple more. I planned on four in total. We'll see if I get to that many. But thank you so much for your time this evening. The first I'm going to start with is called Josip Broz Tito and I. Josip Broz Tito and I drink coffee on the balcony. We watch a double exposed Skopje develop beneath canopies of blushed clouds. The blue train drifts down Partizanka, and I find my mother in the crowd of thousands sobbing, red stars backwards to form halos above their heads. She's 13, and somewhere else in the city I am also 13, but without spectacle. The special police beat a man to death while I call my father to wish him happy birthday. Tito and I drink coffee on the balcony as the earthquake unfurls. We lose the city to the earth, and we lose the city to the earth again, but Comrade Tito and I still sit. Partisans crawl from the rubble in pristine uniforms to liberate us, but can't reach the stone bridge. I'm there. I'm 25, crossing the river with my hands in my pockets. Poe and Mark's chat, pinned to the lapel of my jacket, and we descend into the line of sight of the soldier who is not, but definitely is, Alexander. Tito stirs another 2 cups of Nescafe with a scowl for the sumptuous rock pile. Nearby, in the old bazaar, I find a commemorative tea set with the marshal plastered on the kettle and cups. I buy a magnet with his face, for no one in particular. Tito and I drink coffee on the balcony. The smog so dense, the mountains have become invisible. And the other three poems I'm going to write tonight are all fairly new. So thank you for kind of trying listening as I read some of these all three of these for the first time. This next one is for my dad. Alligator Alley. Midway through the trip, we dissected the Everglades. In one capillary, the road ranger idled in wait for speeders or a new mass extinction, some relic of the bygone West in a white pickup. Something amusing about this knighted crusader stationed in sawgrass under a solemn oath, though to whom is debatable. Surely not to the sainted roadkill, nor the Mikosuke. You and the Gators could recall the pre-interstate days, the era of 2-lane stints. Almost disappointed. I read by the light of the opened glove box while you begged me to look out the window into the night. Um, and then another newbie. Um, more again, always in conversation with my beloved dead. Um, this one is entitled "On Not Being Named After My Paternal Grandmother." The objection could have spawned from a premonition. Angel-like and I, incompatible. Her features are refracted by darkroom missteps or the hold a walled city casts on its absconders, bar one family photo, her no older than 5, notably missing her father. The matriarch, a hawk regal in the fur of her kills, 4 eyases in their cherubic awe flocking the peripheral. Here I see it. Before she was wife, mother, sickness, the divinity of her name puncturing the lens. I disparage how I wither her with my thumb, choose to linger on this picture before barreling through the decades. Curse my cruel line of sight, my heretical inclinations. And that brings me to my final poem. This one I will give a little preface of. Another thing that is really kind of central in my work is folklore, specifically Macedonian folklore. This poem is called Tripartite for Narečinici. And then Narečinici are a part of Slavic folklore, Macedonian folklore, that they are three sisters who appear 3 days after a newborn is born to decide the baby's fate. The oldest sister is the crone, there's a middle sister, and then the maiden, the youngest. And the idea is the youngest can undo the misdeeds of the eldest. And so that's just some context for this. So, tripartite for Narachinici. I'm filled with rooms I've never seen before. Bianca Stone. 1. Purple banshee in the bassinet, 3 days without a name. So far, equinox in a camcorder washing fluorescent light yellow on the playback. I cried the first time I saw that home video from the tenderness between my parents in the hospital room. The birthmark between my brows flared, forehead tableau commissioned by the patron crone of segmented girls. 2. The middle sister's nail grazed my inner thigh, left the outline of a lake frozen over or otherwise misplaced under the skin, and hence the fixation with proximity, with cast-off cemeteries, loose sheets of sketchbook paper, and best intentions left in the bottom of a bathtub never installed. Face powdered with sulfur, vision tinged with cobwebs. I am neither here nor there, feet so far above the bottom. And 3. Alliterative diadem keeping with my parents' names, meaning something to bind around. A 3-person dynasty appointed to the corner lot, rumored the once home of a silent film star turned recluse. I trace her profile in cracked plaster. Youngest sister immemorial watching cartoons next to me on the couch. She lent me a skull brimful of verse under the condition I leave the porch light on for moths, stray cats, and invisible women. Thank you all so much.
Thank you both. That was great. We have a comment in the Q&A from Evelyn Krieger who said, "So beautiful. Thank you both. Your poems uplifted me this evening." So I just wanted to share that with you both. And I think I speak for everyone when I say I agree. Um, so to the participants, remember you can ask some questions in the chat in the Q&A. We have a couple minutes for discussion. I have a question for each of you, starting with Tiara. I love your use of language, and I know that as per your bio, you're an aspiring translator. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how language and Macedonian interact with your work and the translation, how that all comes together.
Yeah, so definitely aspiring. It's fun to try and translate a language you're not fluent in. Because I am not fluent in Macedonian. But with the help from my mom and a wonderful mentor of mine, Nikola Majirov, in college, I was able to translate some of my own grandfather's poems. Um, and really, I think one of my favorite parts about writing poems is sound, is playing with sound and the differences in sound and in cadence. And something I really like to try and play with sometimes a bit is one of the main differences in English and Macedonian is how we stress our words, right? So a big in English, typically, it's very iambic. Did it. Macedonian, it's kind of flipped. It's a little more like trochaic. So stressed, unstressed. So someone, even the last name Dinevska, English is Dinevska, Macedonian. You can kind of hear the difference in lift. I love to try and recreate, like play as much as I can with those sounds in English, to try and elicit some of that still feeling, which is so I do try and surprise myself a little bit with trying speech patterns that and playing with syntax in ways that I can bring in that kind of language in a different way.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love that comment about sound. And so now we have another question. I'm gonna give this one to Gabriela. So this one is in the chat from Gabriel Oladipo, who said, "Love these poems. Thinking of Gabriela's statement on gratitude for small things in this moment. I was wondering how you feel your work has been shifted by recent events, or this moment in time, if at all."
That's a really beautiful question, Gabriel. I'd have to think about that. I do think a lot of my writing naturally kind of stems from, it's not elegy, it's not about grief per se, but it is about, it's almost like pre-elegy or almost writing about something that has yet to be lost. And I think that I've been leaning into my craft more, leaning into writing more as a way of dealing with what at times has been very overwhelming emotions personally. And I think as a practice, the pre-elegy reminds you of what you still have and of what you treasure and what still belongs to you. Um, I think again, I know I briefly mentioned Ilya Kaminsky's poem "A Cigarette," and I love that poem so much. In it, he calls the people on the rooftop. He says that they don't know that they're evidence of happiness, and he says that each of them is a ripped out document of laughter. And I love that. I love thinking about our humanity and our expression as almost like a kind of contraband, like something you're not really supposed to have, and something that maybe authoritarian governments try to take from us. And surprisingly, I think I've been writing more gratitude poems now than let's say like a year ago. Um, and I do think it's out of necessity. But I really do appreciate that question.
Yeah, I love that perspective. I don't know that it's one that I've heard before about writing about something before it's lost. So I really appreciate that answer. And then we have one final just comment from Marjorie Gans who said, "Thank you. The poetry is lovely, and I love the discussion of language." Um, so I agree. You guys did a great job. I wanted to thank you both again, Gabrielle and Tiara, for your wonderful readings, and thank you to all the participants who joined us. I just wanted to say again, we have a full schedule of our upcoming events on our website. I'm particularly excited about an in-person masterclass series we're hosting in the room starting tomorrow in collaboration with Plowshares. Led by editors, poets, designers, and marketers from the Plowshares community, sessions combine close reading, guided prompts, discussion, and optional sharing in a supportive space. Writers across genres will leave with fresh drafts and practical craft tools, and excellent work generated by attendees in these sessions will be considered for publication on the Plowshares blog. It's free for members and $12 for non-members, so I highly agree you check it out. To learn more, you can head to writersroomofboston.org. And I just sent that link in the chat. So good night, all. Thank you again, readers and listeners alike.